Hey everybody, Gary here, and hope everybody's doing fabulous. And I wanted to take a few minutes of your time talking to you about some about to be published novels. And I'm going to try not to take a long time with these, but I've got a few I want to talk about. I've been meaning to do this video actually for a couple of weeks, but some of you may know that some events have been going on, so and there's only so many hours a day and so many days in a week. But a couple of these books, the ones that haven't been published yet, are about to be published. So I wanted to go ahead and get this out there to talk about them tomorrow, October the 15th. Author Anne Rice's sequel to The Wolf Gift, The Wolves of Midwinter, is going to be released. Simultaneously, the same day, her son Christopher Rice is also a wonderful novelist. First foray into supernatural fiction is going to be published, called The Heavens Rise, and he and his mom are actually went on the road today to do a tour, and that's the inscription. And this is my copy. And if some of you want to look at, I don't know if it was the last video or the one before that, I'm doing a contest on my Facebook movie page, Movie Magic Mesmerize Me, to win a signed copy of this book. And this is the book right here in Galley. I got this back early in the summer. Galley is like a preview issue of the book that comes out, and it goes, principally the idea of it is to reviewers and select group of people, and managed to get me an advance copy of the Galley of this. I'd read it in manuscript, and Galley is like pretty much the final edition of the book, kind of preview before it's actually the edition that's going to be published. So it's a fantastic book. If you guys are Anne Rice fans, and if you've read Anne Rice's first werewolf book, The Wolf Gift, which was just an absolutely fantastic book, by all means, get thee to Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or your bookstore, pre-order The Wolves of Midwinter. It's more of the main protagonist, Reuben Golding, who is a werewolf, and the Morfenkinder, the family of ancient werewolves who he lives with at Nidic Point, his mansion in California, and gets more into the family of the Golding family, more into the whole drama and history. There's kind of a confab of werewolves, and there's some pretty spectacular things happen in this book. This is one you're really, really not going to want to miss. The Wolves of Midwinter by Anne Rice. By all means, pre-order this book. You will not be sorry. Also, I wonder if how many of you are familiar with the author Donna Tartt, who in 20 years has only written, 21 years actually, has only written 3 novels. Donna Tartt actually came to prominence in 1992 when her book, The Secret History, was published, and it was a phenomenal success. She was still, I think, in her late 20s, and it was just a world-renowned book about a group of classical, some students in neoclassicism who get so caught up in who they are, who they think they are, in their groupthink, that they sacrifice sort of one of their own they kill a member of their group, and it's the mystery that occurs around that. And this is also a galley. This will be published, I believe, the 22nd of this month, a week from tomorrow. And this again is an advanced look that I got uh, happily got sent to me, and I've read. It's an absolutely fantastic book. Um, Tartt also wrote The Little Friend about 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. You guys may be familiar with this. This is another wonderful book that I highly recommend. I don't know where my copy of Secret History is. I do have it. But Goldfinch is about a young boy. His name is Theo Decker, and he lives alone with his mother in New York City. Uh, his mother is she works in the art world in some respect. I don't remember exactly how, but they go to a museum, um, just kind of just hop into a museum to take a quick look, and there's an explosion, and his mother is killed. Suddenly, Theo's life turns upside down. In the rubble of the explosion, in the aftermath, he comes across this small miniature painting called the Goldfinch, and this is actually a painting from a famous, I believe, it's a Dutch artist that's a few hundred years old, and it's in a museum. This is some of you may be familiar with this painting, but it's being fictionalized here, and he takes possession of it, and he goes to live with a wealthy family. He becomes friends with well, it's a little complicated, but an antiques dealer, art dealer, and it's a great mystery with all three of Tartt's books: Secret History, uh, The Little Friend, and with the Goldfinch. There are young protagonists. In the first book, Secret History, they're college students, but in The Little Friend, there's a young girl, and she kind of a prelude. Her brother was killed when he was a baby, and there's a mystery about that. And she's a young girl, and she kind of becomes like she takes it upon herself to become a sleuth, I guess you would say, and gets in above her head. Uh, Similar, uh, not unsimilar uh, theme with this book. Again, young person, there's a tragic death, and there's a mystery that just builds from that, and it takes place, and he ends up in Amsterdam, he's in New York City, I think he's in Las Vegas at one point, and a lot of mystery and intrigue and adventure. Very, very good read. And one reason that I wanted to uh, mention Donna Tartt's, make sure that I mention Donna Tartt's Little Friend book. For those of you who haven't read it, there's also a Dark Shadows connection because she's about 10 or 11 years old in the early 70s, and there are passages in, I think there's a couple of passages where she talks about watching the original show of Dark Shadows on television. One of them's I was trying to find it before I did this so I could read a little bit from it, but I couldn't find it. But she mentions Dark Shadows a little bit of length at some point, and then later on in the book. The time frame's a little off. I think when this book, to nitpick, when this book takes place, Dark Shadows is actually off the air, or was about to go off the air. But, it's a lot of fun for those of you who know my love for Dark Shadows, or Dowdy if you're watching, and Hippies Collectibles. It's just fun to see uh, the pop cultural reference, one legendary pop cultural reference in a novel. It's just a lot of fun. A book that's already published that you might be interested in. If any of you are interested in the writer J.D. Salinger, very famous for his short stories, very famous for Catcher in the Rye, his novel about Holden Caulfield. This is the new biography by David Shields and Shane Salerno, much touted biography. It's not a biography per se. what's called more like an oral history with a series of quotes from people who knew um, Salinger during his life. Some of them family, some of them friends, some of them people he knew in the publishing world. There's some rare. The entire book is like a series of quotes. Some of them very short, some are very long, about different aspects of his life. Salinger was, of course, a very famous, perhaps the most famous literary recluse there ever was. I'm. It was an interesting book. I enjoyed it. I don't really know if I would recommend it. I guess if you're a huge Salinger fan, something about it is just is interesting, but it's also a little off-putting. I think Salinger, it's just like they're so fascinated with the fact that he was a recluse and like, well, now he died a few years ago, and he would forbid any kind of publication. He would strenuously fight publication or publish letters about his life, things like that during his lifetime. Um, Something about it just left me a bit unsatisfied. It's not a real true biography. It's kind of an interesting read. The big news from it is, all of us were wondering, what is Salinger doing, while he's hidden away? Was he still writing? If he was still writing, which we heard he was, were these books going to see the light of day someday, maybe after he died? And the news from this is apparently that the answer is yes, and that between 2015 and 2020, there's supposed to be a few of these books published, and right now it's kind of hushed up in secret, but this will be announced in the next year or two. Who knows? There may be some truth to it. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I would say if you really love literary biography, especially if you love J.D. Salinger, check this out. Otherwise, you might want to skip. There's also a documentary. The same people who worked on this book have put out a documentary, and watching the documentary might satisfy. I'm not saying that's a bad book or anything like that, but I think you would need to be a Salinger fan or a big fan of literary biographies before you'd like this. So nice try. And last and least, and I'll ask your forgiveness in advance for talking about this. And please know I'm not putting myself in the same league, with anybody else. But sometime this fall, hopefully, if everything goes right, I am planning on self-publishing my own novel, Gary Swafford's novel, and this is the manuscript of it. It's a well thumbed through. This is my edited version, that I've printed out and made my notes in, to do a rewrite. And its title is Lord Audric and the Throne of Fire. And just in brief, it is a futuristic, somewhat dystopic, cautionary, what if fable. Basically, the world has almost ended because of mankind, and almost totally ended. And the being a fable, the animals of the world rise up and take over and enslave mankind, and it goes from there. So finished this a few years ago, and I'm actually working on part two of it now. If it's published and seen to the light of day, and people are interested, seem like they're interested, then there might be a third book. I really don't know. I've got lots of ideas for things I want to do, but who knows what will happen. And to date, the only person who has read this book is it's going to be funny to some of you, but my dear friend Karen O'Brien, who is Anne Rice's sister. And Karen, I send you big love and big thanks. Karen read this book, was it last year or a couple of years ago, I think, and went over it, and I said, will you please look at this and tell me what you think. Is it any good? I've worked on it all these years. I have hopes for it, but I'm too close to it to be objective. Will you just look at it and tell me what you think, what needs work on it, what's good, what works, what doesn't work, etc. Be totally honest. And she was, when she sent it back to me a couple of months later, you know, it's just low. I should have found that copy. I should have found the copy that has all of her notes. It has all these posting notes going all through it, you know. And it was Karen who would just brilliant eye, you know. She would catch things like, well, why does so and so say this on page 467 when back on page 159? You know, making these connections that, you know, just kind of overlooked or whatever. And I got some really valuable advice to her. I think she's a really fantastic editor. I don't know if I would say she's Mr. Calling, but she's Anne Rice's sister, and so, you know, she may be one of Anne's first readers, you know. So, but she gave me invaluable. She told me that she thought that the chapters were too that not that the chapters were too long, but that they needed to be broken up. Like, you know, go on so many pages, 15, 20 pages, and then maybe have like a visual break. You know, so if the reader needed to take a break or whatever, a stop, and then, and I really think that was a superb idea, and it really helps the flow of the book as well. So I don't know. The holdup is mainly I'm trying to self-publish it through Amazon, and Ann is going to help me with it, and just see what happens with it, you know. And I apologize for mentioning it in the same breath. It's the least of these books that I've mentioned, I'm sure, but you know, of course, I'm hopeful, and I'll talk more about it in the future. Right now, I've got an friend, an artist friend of a friend of a friend working on the cover. Amazon does not allow you to even use public domain material for your cover, so that's been a big holdup. And I've got, you know, I just feel like it's got to be just the right cover, and the description that they want you to include with it. I think that's very important as well. So. My buddy Cursive Man has a copy of this, which I've told him, you know, you don't have to read this. Wait 6 months, a year, just whenever you're ready, if you want to read it at all. So, anyway, by all means, go to Amazon, your books, call your bookstore, and have them order Anne Rice's Wolves of Midwinter. It's a terrific book. You will love it. And if you haven't read The Wolf Gift, get that as well. And get Donna Tartt's book, The Goldfinch, which comes out October the 22nd. The Salinger book for you literary lovers, Definite Possibility. And down the road, I'll talk some more about my own book, Lord Audric and the Throne of Fire, Book 1 of the Animal Kingdom Fables. So, thanks a lot, guys, for watching. Please look at my last two videos about the two different contests I'm doing. I'm doing one contest for the signed copy of Wolves of Midwinter on my Facebook movie page, Movie Magic Mesmerize Me, and I'm doing another comic book related video naming what you think is the greatest comic book of all time. See that video for details, and you win several trade books with that. So thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. Share your thoughts with me on these books, or if you have other recommendations for books, I'd love to hear them, and just let me know what you think about everything. Thanks a lot, guys, and take care.